Grief is the price that we pay for love. But when somebody we love dies, the one thing that we can be sure of is that they are now at peace. And that means we can be thankful for the time that we spent with them and for all the memories that we got to make with them along the way. And that really means that each and every person sitting here today can be thankful that Anne is still a part of your lives, because she lives on in the hearts and in the memories of everybody who knew her and loved her. And in a moment we're going to hear from Anne's granddaughter Lauren, who will be reading a poem. But before we do that, let's take a few moments to walk back through Anne's life and remind ourselves of all the different chapters of her lives and the memories she leaves behind. So let's start the early part of her life, when she was born to parents Tam and Chrissy and Philin on the 13th of April 1935, and was a sister to Tam. She enjoyed a very happy and loving childhood filled with wee adventures, like her brother Tam eating all the butter during rationing times and blaming Anne for it, even though she hated butter back then. And the family originally lived in the blocks in Philin, so Anne had quite a mix of childhood friends who all liked playing up the bing and then would get into trouble for getting filthy. Anne's school years were spent in Philin Primary School, and when she left at 14, she worked as a twister in Templeton Carpet Factory in Stirling. Although whenever anybody would ask her what she did and she said a twister, people didn't realise it meant that she twisted the wool. They thought she was a dancer. Even her carers thought she'd been a dancer. What a great job that would have been, eh? To have a job as a twister. One night, while Anne was at the cinema, she met her husband-to-be, Jimmy. When he came in with his brother, and after Anne's friend got her hair caught in Jimmy's brother's coat button, this meant that Anne noticed Jimmy, and she turned to her friend and said, "That's who I'm going to marry." And she was right, of course, because they were married in Philin Church on the 13th of May 1958. Following their wedding, they worked hard and saved hard to start their family and get their first home. And in October 1958, their first son James was born, followed by Christine in December 1962 and Derek in February 1967. And they described her as a good mum, although they said that if they didn't do as they were told, she would chase them with a slipper. First to the toilet, and to lock themselves in was safe, but she would say, "Just you wait till your dad gets home." But she was old school, and she had rules. Like if they were outside playing, the cue to come back in was when the street light came on, which was fine if it was winter and dark, but rubbish if it was summertime and still daylight, but they still had to go in. However, they didn't always get sent straight to bed. Instead, they would play board games, which often resulted in the loser, usually Derek, I'm told, tossing the board in the air in frustration. They also played dominoes and cards, and as they got older, a few of James's friends would come to the house too, so it was a very busy, very active, happy house. Christine also remembers how her mum used to take her into town for shopping and would often buy her a wee extra and say, "Don't tell James or Derek if you've got nothing else." Years went by, and James, Christine and Derek left to build lives of their own, and Anne became a mum-in-law to Tricia and Adele. And then she became a much-loved Gran to James, Lauren, Megan, Danielle and Stephen. Although our eldest grandson James did call her Granny Grumpy when he was very young. I'll let you make up your minds why that was. But of course all our grandchildren have their own precious, precious memories of their Gran, and some of them want to keep those memories close to their hearts, which is absolutely fine. But Lauren remembers how her gran used to say, is it hilarious or hilarious?
Hilarious.
Hilarious, great. Hilarious, with that A very, very, very pronounced. Sorry. And as Anne got older, Megan was often getting a row for not putting enough sugars in her gran's coffee, which ended up usually she'd have to put about 5 or 6 spoons in, and her gran would say, aye, that's better, even though she only took 2 sugars. And Danielle tells how she would let a swear word drop now and again, which her gran always picked up on and told her off, saying, that's terrible for a young lassie. In later years, Anne and Jimmy took many holidays together, but when the children were young, their holidays were caravan holidays and day trips to Portobello or Aberdour with a big picnic, or they would go to the beach so they could paddle in the sea. Anne was a school escort for disabled children, and she would often accompany them in the transport to school, a job that she really loved. She also used to knit lots of dolls' outfits, with hats and wee handbag to match the outfit. And she also enjoyed reading and knitting right up until her eyesight became very poor. Anne was also a good friend and neighbour, and even though she wasn't much of a drinker, the family can remember one episode where she got a bit tipsy on 2 Bacardis and fell off a garden chair at her friend Jean's, but insisted it was a bobbly chair because she couldn't say the word wobbly. That's what 2 Bacardis does to you. She also loved babysitting for her friend Jean's 2 children, Louise and David. Anne and Jean were friends for 45 years, and Jean has precious memories of all the holidays and day trips they shared together. Louise has great memories of Oliver's the baker's bread, which Anne gave to her warm and loaded with butter. And Louise was also jealous because Anne had an ashtray and a stand, and Louise always thought it was really posh because her house never had one. I have to say I love the flower tribute that's in the shape of a cigarette. Awesome. David has his memories of getting his sausages cooked and cooled and served with his green marmalade, or lime marmalade as it should be. And he was a huge lover of her trifle too. Overall, Anne had a long and happy life, right up until she developed Alzheimer's and eventually needed carers to go in 4 times a day to look after her. But even then, she had laughs with the carers, and although she could be a wee bit crabbit with them, they knew exactly how to take her. But as we all know, life can be so very, very fragile. And on the 22nd of February, at the age of 85 years, Anne died peacefully in Forthbank Care Home. And I know that she will be deeply, deeply missed by everybody who knew her. But to close our tribute, I'd like to invite her granddaughter Lauren to come forward and read a poem for her gran.
So, just like Linda says, Gran did have a long, fulfilled life. She had loads of adventures, and I have to say, through all these adventures, and as she's told the stories about them, always followed up by wise words of wisdom. I thought it would be best just to try and express my memories of her, just in a wee poem that I wrote. Well, admit, sorry Gran, quote unquote, there is a swear word, so please forgive me. When you look back the years, they are full of precious times. So here's a few memories of Gran, with no mention of Sydney Devine. Sorry. I remember the time at Kinross Market when you put a fag in your pocket. We'd never seen you move so fast and your eyes were popping out your socket. Saturday visits were always fun. Your wee mix-ups were always a treat. But then you trip over and say something like move your plates of meat. Then Cheeky Stephen came along and always made a go for your glasses, but you did not fear because you had 3 lovely lasses. You always called Derek a nurse, then warned me Christine was a drunk, and if Big James took off his shoes, they'd hum because they stunk. I also remember your relationship advice when Jordan came on the scene. Don't get married and enjoy your life, or the whole treat him mean, keep him keen. I also liked when you used to hum a tune, songs that were full of hope and cheer. I will deeply miss you, Gran. There is happiness and sorrow in every tear. But I don't think Gran has been born. More that our journey's just begun. I pray she's in peace with Gran and Jimmy as they are reunited as one. Thank you.
Just a wee poem that I wrote, A beautiful poem, what a beautiful, beautiful tribute to your Gran. Ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, let us take a moment to hold Anne in our thoughts and to remember all these beautiful memories that Lauren has just shared. For anybody who would like to offer up a silent prayer at this time, you are most welcome to do so as we listen to Lena Martell, no Sydney Divine, Lena Martell sing Bridge Over Troubled Water.
I'll dry them all.
belting those out? She loved belting out Arlena Martelli. Even when she had her Alzheimer's, she would still belt out Lena Martelli to her carers. Let's just take a moment. Let's just. Family and friends, you're now invited to join us for the committal service here at Bannockburn Cemetery. But just before we leave to do that, the family would like to say a heartfelt thank you to everybody that's come out here today, but also to everybody else who's reached out and shown their love and support in other ways, be it through cards, flowers, messages or phone call. A special thank you to David Henderson Lloyd for his services, and also to Adele for putting together the order of service. And although there will be no formal gathering after today's service, we do hope that you might find a moment to stop later in the day and to think of Anne, maybe even raise a wee something in her memory. But let's close this part of the service by listening once again to Lena Martell, this time sing The Old Rugged Cross.
On a hill far away stands an old rugged cross, the emblem of suffering and shame. And I love that old cross. The dear
and gentlemen, please be upstanding.
I will cling to the old rugged cross
Please be seated for a moment.
and exchange it someday for a
Ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding.